During the events of Steel Ball Run, President Funny Valentine and his cabinet sent out many assassins to collect the corpse parts and deal with anyone else who was collecting them. Though, most of these men were paid off or just didn't know better than to work with President Funny Valentine. Others were strictly loyal to the man, though only one of them was willing to completely give his life for a chance to protect the president. And this man is Mike O and his stand, Tubular Bells. Mike O is the personal bodyguard and head of the Secret Service for the president during the presidency of Funny Valentine. He's a very eccentric man with constantly referring to different locations, ideas, and statuses as different types of worlds. And to understand why, we need to understand the meaning behind his name. Mike O's name comes from the English musician and composer Michael Gordon Oldfield. Oldfield was well known for many things, such as helping the British-American record label Virgin Records explode into popularity, or supplying many famous songs to different media platforms such as The Exorcist and Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain, and of course carving the path for the new age music scene to become successful. And Oldfield found most of his major success through his personal project that he called the Tubular Bells Project. This project was where Oldfield would play a multitude of instruments and dub them over each other. He did this so that he could create a non-formulaic sound while also sticking to his natural talent with multiple instruments. He did this by breaking the standard 4/4 time signature and went with a 15/8 time signature instead. This created an eerie and unforgettable sound which won Oldfield a Grammy in 1976. Though that's not where Tubular Bells stopped, it actually went on to have many parts, though the most interesting thing about Tubular Bells is that most of these parts were released by different publishers. Tubular Bell, the original, was released by Virgin Records. Then Tubular Bells Part 2 was released by Warner Brothers Music. Then Tubular Bells Part 3 was released by Warner Brothers UK. And then lastly, the complete Tubular Bells experience was released by Mike Oldfield himself. And given the fact that Tubular Bells is Mike O's stand, meaning that Tubular Bells is connected to the character in some way, this may play into why Mike O's theme of referring to different places and ideas as different worlds is actually based on the Tubular Bells experience, given that Tubular Bells, the project, aka Mike Oldfield's legacy, exists in many different worlds of music. And as a sense, Mike O sees everything as different conflicting worlds, yet the most powerful world in Mike O's eyes is his own personal world, which makes sense given that Oldfield released the complete Tubular Bells experience personally. Speaking of Tubular Bells as the stand, we should actually talk about that. Even though the stand has no true physical form, its ability takes inspiration from the album cover used on all the Tubular Bells albums. Its design was created by Trevor Key based on the damage caused to the Tubular Bells instrument that Mike Oldfield was playing in the recording booth. As its bent and misshapen look played into the eeriness of the music on the album, this is why the ability of Tubular Bells involves twisting and bending metal and giving it a balloon-esque texture. Also, during the part we see 3 different balloon animal forms. This plays into the fact that there were 3 different parts of the Tubular Bells experience. Because first you have the balloon dog, which establishes the ability of Tubular Bells and shows off its strange and creepy nature. This is reflected by the first Tubular Bells album being the establishment for the Tubular Bells project, and did so by creating a strange and creepy sound. Yet it was unforgettable and stuck with the listener, much like the ability is unforgettable and sticks with the reader. And then you have Tubular Bells 2, which took a lot from the original yet modified it slightly, while also featuring songs such as Weightless, Altered State, and Sentinel, which are all songs that could be connected to the ability itself of inflating the metal fence. And then finally you have Tubular Bells 3, which unlike Tubular Bells 1 and 2, Tubular Bells 3 sticks to not strictly the Tubular Bells project in its references, but other albums in Mike Oldfield's career. This is reflected by the Guillotine Swans, as they function differently from the other attacks that Mike O was performing during that time, as instead of floating towards the host and entering their bodies to destroy them, the Guillotine Swans are used to chop the enemy in half or decapitate them. Not to mention that the pacing of the song fits perfect with the arc and the fight itself. And then you also have the unnerving nature of the balloon animals, as their structure allows them to twist their way into small tight areas where they shouldn't be able to fit. This allows them to hunt down specific people and invade their bodies through any opening, and this ability might actually be related to the effects of possession in the movie The Exorcist. Though it's a bit of a stretch, given that Araki is a horror nut and that tubular bells is the theme of The Exorcist, it's not completely unfounded. Now for Maiko as a character, he's a smart yet selfless person who holds the president in high regards and cares deeply about his job of protecting him. He's also quick to adapting to his surroundings and making improvised deadly weapons out of anything around him. He's also shown to have a very cool demeanor, but it can be broken down easily when he begins to panic when Tubular Bells detect someone in the White House, and that he completely loses his cool when he finds the corpse of the First Lady. Now it's never shown in the part why Maiko's loyalty to Funny Valentine is so strong. He definitely doesn't fear the man, as his ability he holds in high regards, and his loyalty definitely goes beyond Funny Valentine is just the president. It's possible that the combination of Maiko's race, the time period which Steel Ball Run takes place in, and who Funny Valentine was as a person during the war. Because 1890 wasn't exactly the greatest time to be black. Even if you were super talented at whatever you were doing, you didn't exactly have a lot to look forward to. And the fact that the Union soldier hero and President of the United States elects you to be his own personal bodyguard, well, that must have meant a lot to Maiko. So much so that he would willingly throw his life away to favor the safety of President Valentine. And this is shown very well during his fight at the very end when he's still trying to inflate the nails even though he knows it would blow himself up with them. Maiko is a rather short-lived and underappreciated minor antagonist in Steel Ball Run. His stand and personality blend together really well, and I think he's up there with one of my favorites from Steel Ball Run. I'm also glad that his fight exists as to show Hot Pants' skill level, given that Hot Pants hadn't really done anything notable prior to this arc, and they were considered a main character, so it helps that Hot Pants actually had something to do. But I'll save that for a Hot Pants video in the future. And if you want to support that future, I have a Patreon over at patreon.com/MenyNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to see something completely tubular that will ring your bells for years to come, head on over to Funimation.com/show/Shimonetta, boring world where the concept of dirty jokes doesn't exist. And go yourself, buy yourself a copy of Shimonetta.